Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. It's Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, also known as your fighter pilot next door. Today we're going to be diving into how Iran has upgraded their attack plan on the United States. This is essentially going to break down how Iran would use offense to go against the United States if they felt like there was no other option. And on this channel, I like to break down military tech, a little smattering of geopolitics, but specifically plans that would take place if countries were to go into a conflict. Now, ideally, we avoid these conflicts, but I think it's always worth knowing how it would go down. So with that said, let's dive into how Iran has upgraded their attack plan on the United States.
Iran just upgraded their attack plan on the USA in a way that has never been expected. And the reason why is a small base in the Indian Ocean called Diego Garcia. It's the early morning hours and the US is preparing to attack Iran. Iran knows this. They're very anxious because this base in the Indian Ocean houses 7 US B-2s. They're stationed there and some of them are sitting alert specifically for Iran. The B-2 base comes to life as maintainers begin to kick the tires and prepare the jets to take off and launch their strike on Iran. This base is incredibly important because it houses the B-2s in order to give leverage to the US during US nuclear talks. But at this point, the talks have broken down and Iran knows it, and they know that they need to strike the B-2s before the B-2s can strike them. Because these B-2s are carrying something that Iran does not want to see in their home territory, and that is the GBU-57 bunker buster bomb. These bombs can light up an entire region because they're 30,000 pounds and they carry enough tritonol to destroy an underground city, which is where Iran houses most of their sensitive military equipment. So as Iran begins to prepare their tactics to defeat the B-2s, they also need to be aware of the US Navy. The US Navy is operating in the Red Sea fighting the Houthi rebels, but their secondary mission is to counter Iran's aggression in the Persian Gulf. And the way that Iran will do this is no secret. But they'll focus on leveraging their fast attack boats, their dual-hull stealth boats, and their Iranian mini-subs that can lay mines and fire torpedoes at carriers, destroyers, and other ships in the carrier strike group. But the US Navy knows this as well, so in order to counter these Iranian threats, the systems on their destroyers and carriers will come to life. There's 3 different nets of defenses that the carriers have. The first outer net would be DCA, Defensive Counter-Air, flown by EA-18G Growlers, F-18Es and Fs, and F-35Cs. These jets will be loaded down with AIM-9Xs and AIM-120 Charlies that can reach out and touch Iranian fighters. If Iran decides to launch F-4s, F-14s, F-5s, potentially even Su-35s from their bases, they will be immediately countered by this outer net of the carrier strike group. At this point, the carrier strike group's outer net will engage Su-35s, F-4s, F-5s with their AIM-120s at range, probably beyond 30 nautical miles or more. If any of these fighters get through the AIM-120Cs, which will be a barrage raining down upon them like arrows from the Spartans. But making it through doesn't mean that they're going to have an easy day, because at this point AIM-9Xs will light up the night sky, and so many AIM-9Xs will launch that it'll almost block out the sun. The AIM-9X is carried on all of these different fighters, and it is deployed with the joint helmet mounted queuing system, which can be launched off bore sight. Yeah, you got it. That means it can be launched to the side, potentially even behind fighters as they are engaged with these Iranian threats. And then the middle layer of defense will be SM-2s, Advanced Sea Sparrow missiles, and other missiles that can be launched from the carrier itself or from destroyers that are operating in the Red Sea. They will use these defenses to try to counter Iranian drone threats, but also missiles that will be launched from merchant vessels that are disguised as simply operating as civilians. But these merchant vessels house an ugly secret. They've essentially disguised their best missiles, like the Fata 313, in merchant vessels. Also known as the Nor missile, this missile is highly capable as an anti-ship missile that can be used against destroyers and against the carrier strike group itself. The Nor missile is designed to fly at low altitude to avoid radar detection. So if Iran's able to launch 5 or 6 of these, it might remain under the radar for the carrier strike group, but it won't remain under the radar for the F-18s that are up above protecting the mothership. And then the inner ring of defenses will be comprised of electronic attack radars that are attached to the carrier itself, and also CIWS phalanx guns, 20 to 30 millimeter weapons that can be radar guided and fired at drones or cruise missiles that are coming in to hit the carrier. And then the absolute last line of defense would be the carrier actually maneuvering itself to dodge a missile like the Fata 313. Large carriers can actually maneuver and change direction of 30 to 40 degrees in under 30 seconds. This means they can change their space in the ocean by over 200 yards over the course of 2 minutes, dodging any missiles that might be fired at the carrier strike group, but these missiles will also need to be jammed in order to deter them from actually hitting the carrier. Next, Iran's going to deploy their midget submarines. These midget submarines will actually try to create a coordinated torpedo strike on the carriers themselves. But while they're doing that, they'll be laying mines in specific sea lanes to try to push strike groups into ambush zones from land-based SAMs. And those land-based SAMs include the Fata 313, that powerful air missile, which has a range of over 250 nautical miles. They'll also try to push the carriers close to the shore because their Sacker 358 SA-67 anti-aircraft missiles will be loitering above, waiting for any unsuspecting F-18Gs. Iran's fast boats are nothing to mess with as well. Iran will focus on distracting the US military by cutting off key choke points like the Straits of Hormuz. There, they'll likely drop mines which will pinch the carrier strike groups into not being able to enter the Straits of Hormuz at all. This would also shut off the flow of oil and energy to most parts of the world, likely causing chaos throughout the world, and Iran would hope that would cause the US military to back down and focus on getting the energy to reflow to specific strategic nations around the globe. But something that Iran might not be thinking of as much is that they would need to also attack US proxy forces, like forces in Saudi Arabia and UAE, and forces stationed in the region. That includes F-35s potentially stationed in Qatar at Al Udeid Air Base. These F-35s would likely be sitting alert, or they would already be airborne with tanker support in order to go into Iran after the B-2s. Additionally, F-35s and F-15EXs would be stationed at UAE. UAE is a very strategic location which would allow these forces to operate into Iran and to perform strikes on day one of the engagement, right after the B-2s and the F-35Cs. And then Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Prince Sultan Air Base would house the Saudi version of the F-15EX. These would be highly capable F-15s which could launch cruise missiles. Iran would try to strike these bases with their Quds brand missile, which has a range of roughly 200 nautical miles. Air assets like AWACS and tankers would need to be airborne to avoid being struck by these surface-based missiles. But Iran has more tricks up their sleeve. They have proxy forces in Yemen named the Houthi rebels and Iraqi militias that would be loyal to Iran. Those forces would possibly strike Saudi Arabia and other US-friendly nations in the Gulf. But now back to Diego Garcia. The US base of the B-2s has been prepping for battle all night long, and Iran knows this, and they know they need to take them down. The B-2 is a stealth-designed deep strike bomber which is meant to go into Iran on minute 1. It would likely remain undetected with 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker buster bombs, which would target specific C2 command and control for the Iranian military. Iran, likely not being able to counter the B-2s once airborne, would definitely try to strike these B-2s prior to takeoff. They would try to move container ships close to the outskirts of Diego Garcia and strike the B-2s as they made their way from Diego Garcia into Iran. So their first option would be to strike them while they're on the ground, but then if Iran had somehow obtained advanced technology, they would also try to strike them once airborne. And the key, which would align with Iran's strategy, aligns with what happened in January of 2024 when Iran successfully launched Fata-class ballistic missiles from container ships on the deck of the Shahed Madavi. The Shahed Madavi is a container ship which was purchased in March of 2023. And specifically, the most likely missiles that are underneath the hull of the Shahed Madavi would be the Fata 110 and the Fata 113, which has a range of over 250 nautical miles. The ship is disguised as an innocent merchant vessel shipping oil or other goods, but under the hull, an ugly surprise awaits, as vertical launch systems could launch these Fata 110s and Fata 113s, which are capable of hitting Diego Garcia if the ships were able to get within 250 nautical miles of the base. And it's said that Iran has upgraded the boosters on their Fata 110 and Fata 113s, which could allow these ugly missiles to rear their head at 500 nautical miles or more. And just 6 of these specifically targeted missiles missiles onto Diego Garcia could disable every B-2 sitting on the ramp currently in Diego Garcia. The missiles would likely try to destroy the B-2s themselves, but they would also focus on critical infrastructure on the base, like the runways and other support structures, but specifically targeting the critical stockpiles of bunker buster bombs and other munitions that would be critical to US success during their attack on Iran. Next, we need to talk about Iran's stealthy double-hull designed ships, which would also play a large part in their strategy to counter the US Navy and military at large. The Shahed Soleimani is a 213-foot-long dual-hull ship that has stealth properties that is specifically designed by Iran to avoid surface radars. It's propelled by multiple powerful diesel engines, which can increase its speed to 35 knots or more. And the big danger here is that these dual-hulled stealth ships are equipped with 6 anti-ship cruise missiles, which could reach out and touch US carriers, destroyers, and other members of the carrier strike group. They have been upgraded with VLS, vertical launch systems, which are underneath the hull, which could launch advanced surface-to-air missiles and also surface-to-surface missiles. It's also equipped with 4 20mm auto guns, which would try to destroy any incoming missiles trying to target the stealth boats. It also has a helipad, which is said to be able to accommodate Cobra helicopters. But one of the biggest strategies is that this stealth boat has an underhull crane that can launch and retrieve fast boats. It can reload these fast boats in under half an hour. It would deploy these fast boats acting as a Queen Bee mothership that has something disgusting ready to send at the US Navy. The Shahed UAV is also stored in the hull, with dozens of them being able to launch simultaneously. So as you can see, this stealth ship can act as a queen bee, sending out its bees to attack US forces. But Iran's overall strategy that is developing daily involves deception and fakes that would try to lead the US into an overextended position, and it would focus on tactics like the Shahid Madavi, which was originally a state-owned and operated container ship called the Sarvin. So you could expect Iran to outfit many more merchant vessels with its Fatah 110 and 113. So it would really come down to the US being able to counter this deception and determine which of these merchant vessels would need to be struck prior to it operating as a military asset for Iran. And stay tuned to the channel. In the next video, we'll likely discuss the US's attack plan and how it could destroy Iran in under 24 hours if its tactics were executed properly. Hey guys, Max Afterburner here. Thanks so much for watching the channel. Really appreciate you. It turns out that only 11.3% of you are subscribed to the channel. If you would please subscribe to the channel, it would help me grow the channel immensely, and I can do videos like this for you essentially every day. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Most of all, have a great day.
So it's Ryan from Max Afterburner signing off. Thanks so much for watching the video, guys. I've got a lot of other videos coming up. There's one that's going to come up right here that talks about a geopolitical situation that I think you're going to want to know about. So check out that video right now, and I will see you on that video.